Hello there, gorgeous. Welcome to another episode of Star Wars Minute. It's your daily podcast in which we analyze, scrutinize, and celebrate The Last Jedi one Snoke minute at a time. I'm Alex Robinson from alexrobinson.fun.
I'm Pete the Retailer from PeteTheRetailer.com.
I'm Alison Rosen from AlisonRosen.com.
And I'm Daniel Quantz from Twitter.com/Daniel Quantz.
All right, welcome back, guys.
Thank you.
You're here to talk about minute 93. Minute 93 of The Last Jedi starts off with Rey telling Kylo Ren that he'll turn. She'll help him. And it ends a minute later with Finn telling Rose and DJ that this is it.
This is the best minute. This is my favorite minute. Thank
This
you
is
guys.
it.
Yeah.
This is it.
Which again is like a paraphrase of an earlier. Was that when they're making their attack on the Death Star in the end of Star Wars? Like, this is it. Like,
That's right.
So there you go. He's paraphrasing Red Leader.
And Huey Lewis.
Yeah. But yeah, in the elevator, and well, now I'm totally thinking about Rey as the drunk girl at the party because they're all this talking about turning and being like, no, you're gonna turn, you're gonna be I'll help you.
When
like,
I touch
just
your
totally,
hand,
like,
I saw your future. I
I'll
saw
help
all of
you.
it.
It'll be all right.
Shh.
Yeah. Which, ironically, one of the actors who tried out for the part of Rey was Billie Lourd, who's Carrie Fisher's daughter. And was given a part. She was one of the mutineers here. She was Cato Kokonix earlier, but thinking of her I just saw Booksmart not too long ago, and that she plays that kind of wild party girl in that. So now I'm picturing alternate reality, Billie Lourd as the party girl Rey.
Oh yeah.
Like no, when I touched your hand, totally.
I have a question for you guys.
Sure.
As
That's
Star
why we're
Wars
here.
experts, one of the things that I've been wondering after seeing this movie the first time, and then especially after seeing the third movie, is how much of the story was actually figured out when they started shooting these movies. Because
0%.
Is that true? Because the feeling really was like those games you play where you write 3 sentences and then fold over the 2, and the next person sees 1 and writes like. It just felt like that, but then I'm like, well, they wouldn't actually start producing a trilogy, like a Star Wars trilogy, without knowing what the story. I'm sorry, what the story was. Would they? But
There's lots of behind the scenes intrigue to be learned. Again, as time goes on, we'll learn more about what exactly it was. Although the thing that I heard most recently, which makes the most sense for the confusing things about the structure of this movie and some of the things about the Rise of Skywalker, is that originally I think the idea was JJ was going to start it off, hand it off to Rian Johnson, was going to make this movie, and then Rian Johnson was going to write the screenplay for the episode 9 to be directed by, I forgot who it was that got kicked off of it.
Colin Trevorrow.
Trevorrow. But then I think once that got canned, they're like, all right, we're going to give it back to JJ. And then he was like, I'm going to write my own thing. So then I think a lot of those ideas for 8 and 9 got combined into 8. And so a lot of the things that maybe seem like they might be dead ends from this movie are a byproduct of that. Not just JJ saying, I'm not going to take this, I'm not going to take what he gave me, but like Ryan basically being like, all right, I'm just going to take all the stuff that I liked out of my final 2/3 of the trilogy and kind of smash it into one movie. And then you go from there.
But the stuff, that's really interesting. But the stuff, like, they set up the question from the beginning about who her parents are.
Right.
I mean, did they know the answer to that question, or did you have 5 people who had different answers to that question? Or I mean, it seems like maybe they were going one direction and then they went another direction, but I don't know.
Well, J.J. Abrams, I guess, famous for his puzzle boxes, where he just kind of throws out a bunch of potential things, and then it's like, all right, you guys have fun with this.
It came back to bite him because they're like, no, now you have to solve your own puzzle, and he's like, no,
Okay.
That's the lesson.
But
So, no, go
alternate.
ahead.
Let me just remind everybody that going back, the original trilogy has, at the first couple of drafts of Empire Strikes Back, Luke's father comes back to help him defeat Darth Vader, and the Luke's sister eventually in Return of the Jedi, Luke's sister is somebody else off on some other planet in some other corner of the galaxy, until they go back and change things up at the last minute.
Well,
So
didn't they,
rich Star
brother
Wars
and
tradition.
sister, didn't they kiss? Isn't that like a famous inconsistency thing? Sort of like, for people who have recently watched the Friends reunion and have Friends on their mind, Rachel and Ross and Chandler knew each other way back when. However, in the pilot, it's like they were introduced for the first time.
Oh,
So, hello, someone is paying attention, and it's me.
Allison's going to be doing Friends by the minute.
Oh my God, that is a really good idea. Okay, so back to the minute, though. This specific minute, I must confess, can you remind me what happened? You bookended it, but what happened in those middle 40 seconds? I'm forgetting, which is weird given that I drove all the way over here today just to talk about this 1 minute, but I'm forgetting specifically this minute.
That's right. Sometimes, traffic will do that to you.
Well, Kylo, they're in the elevator, and then they get out of the elevator, and Snoke is there, and he's like, "Welcome to my ship, Rey." Nowhere.
And she's handcuffed.
Yeah, and then it just ends with them getting over to the some room they have to go into.
Action-wise, not too much going on.
Okay, can we talk about Snoke's disgusting face? I was surprised that this is all CGI. I don't understand why it was CGI, because he just looks like a disgusting puppet. But and I think he's supposed to be gross. But the fact that do you just see the sinew of his cheeks, that he's so decomposed and decrepit? He looks like a weird ET dead body. Oh, very, very nauseating. I mean, very effective at making just a totally disgusting creature.
Yeah, and it is, it's that modern, combination of computer graphics and, based on the performance of Andy Serkis,
right?
But yeah, it really does. What it kind of makes you think about, all right, what's his deal? Why is he so weird and gross? And then again, it doesn't really. You kind of find out because he's a weird kind of clone project thing.
Oh,
But,
I didn't know that.
well, it's not really explicitly said ever.
Oh.
So that's
Yeah.
How
it's
did you
just
find
kind
out?
Of, in the next movie, the Emperor comes back and he says something about I made Snoke, and then when you go through his room, it's there's a whole bunch of tanks full of Snokes.
Oh.
And so it seems like
Tanks full of Snoke.
tanks
I
for
made
the
Snoke,
Snokes.
and then I took a melon baller and scooped out his cheeks.
was
Exactly.
all
And I said,
Snoke and
"Ta-da!" What'd you say, Daniel?
I said it was all Snoke and mirrors. I liked it better when it was, well, whatever. It is what it is, guys.
Yeah.
But it's like this idea of, what was it, Darth Plagious? Is that right?
Darth
Yeah.
Plagueis the Wise.
Yeah, like something like that, would have been cool instead of, I don't know.
Well, my pet theory was that it was Grand Moff Tarkin somehow.
Grandma Tarkin.
Grand Moff Tarkin, the Peter Cushing from the original Star Wars, so somehow reconstituted. And while it seemed ridiculous at the time, what actually happened was not that far off from being ridiculous.
So this is
too
not
ridiculous.
the minute then where Snoke says, "I knew that you would do my
No.
bidding" or whatever.
No,
Well,
that's the one.
yeah,
It
he
is.
says,
Okay.
"My good and faithful apprentice," and it does seem like
Right.
he's laying it on a little thick, because
Yeah.
earlier minutes he was saying you are nothing but a dog who
Mhm.
just kind of laying it. It's you're useless and you'll never be as cool as Darth Vader.
Right. So then he's like, you, my young kiss ass. I knew you would kiss my ass and bring me the girl, right?
Right. Does Snoke have an ass?
Oh,
Probably
Interesting.
not.
it's a good question.
Probably just like a hole
Well,
in his tuchus region.
I was going to say,
Took us
define ass.
I don't think there's anything you can palpate, teen.
I'm sorry I brought us into this area of conversation.
Well, this is the first time we see Snoke in real life. When we saw him in the last movie, Force Awakens, we only saw him as a hologram, and as a hologram that was like 20 stories tall. So
Right.
I, for one, was kind of disappointed that, much like a certain Oz wizard, he turns out to just be a kind of just slightly bigger than normal guy. He should have at least been smaller than a regular guy.
What if he was
rather than
like
just
really
be-
teeny tiny?
Right,
That
yeah.
would have been better, I think.
Yeah.
I think having him, because that would explain why he needs such a big hologram. But
Yeah.
Right.
going with the choice of having him be slightly larger than a regular person is kind of seems like the least exciting of the choices you
Right.
could have made. Either
Yeah.
giant or tiny, but he's
Turn-
just right in the middle there.
Turns out he's just like a little guy, but he has a big truck with huge tires.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
And truck
You know.
nuts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
truck nuts.
But again, his gold pajamas.
Oh, he looks
Mm.
good, guys. I
Mhm.
see why they did. You can't find someone who looks this good in real life. You got to do CGI.
Right.
You know what?
Yeah.
I think I'm being handed a note that this. I think we do actually see Snoke in person earlier in the film. So take
yeah.
that part.
I thought
out
you
of
meant
it.
the film as a whole, as when we first see him in person.
I
So
love that you guys
I
have
was
a staff
agreeing with you.
like
So-
that fact checks you in real time. It's so handy.
When you
It's
see,
a staff of hundreds required to keep this
This
seamless machine
machine.
rolling without incidents.
there's a shot with his face and Ray's face in the frame together. I don't know if it's
Mhm.
one of our minutes, and you can see his head proportionally is pretty big. But then I don't know if Daisy Ridley's head might be small. So
Hmm.
she might have a
Mm.
tiny
One of those-
head.
Tiny head ladies.
Well, is she short? I don't know.
She comes across as tall on screen.
Let's guess. I'm going to say she's 5'6".
Oh.
5'6".
That's
Okay.
my
find
guess too.
5'6".
You
I
can't
will,
take the same guess as me.
Yeah.
All right.
No,
I think she's
5'4".
5. You know this?
I don't know. I'm just.
Oh,
Guessing.
I thought maybe you looked it up. All right.
Yeah.
I looked
think
it up.
she's-
So,
I'm gonna say she's 5'7".
Daniel?
5'4".
Allison is correct on the nose, 5'7". According to,
Glad I
a
didn't.
public lookup. Who knows if that they, there's a thing that every hockey player who's shorter than 5'8" is listed at 5'7", and no matter they could be like 4'11", and they're still like, hey, he's 5'7".
Well, she's not a
Could
hockey
be.
player, so I'm
Could
gonna
be.
trust it. So that's tall for a movie star.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, is that? I don't know.
They're all tiny.
I'm bad with sizes and heights and.
The shorter
I think
you
Adam
are,
Driver is tall as
Depth.
well.
he's big.
Oh
He's a
yeah,
big guy.
isn't he like 6'4" or something?
Oh,
and
really?
I think Laura Dern is tall, but like generally, the shorter you are, the more proportional you seem on camera.
Because you have a bigger head.
You just look better. Yeah. Yeah, maybe it's the head to body ratio
Yeah.
makes you look more childlike or
Maybe.
something.
So we get to see. So when we open on Snoke's room here, which terrific looking room. I mean,
So
very
good.
it's
red,
Yeah.
very black,
red
very red
curtain
and black
stuff,
and shiny.
it's just him and his guards there. Do you think he just like sits there chatting with his like guards all day long? Does he just sit there in silence? Do they?
I think he periodically like shoots them
Oh
just
dear,
for fun.
Mm.
He seems like that kind
keep
of
them
guy.
on their toes. Yeah.
Yes,
Well, you
exactly.
probably just
Just
watch
sitting there
movies on
bored.
that screen. That red
Oh, yeah.
screen, probably.
Oh,
You know
you
what I mean?
think
It's not
so?
always red.
Mm. We think it's like
should
the
have-
Wiz, where like
it should be
it's like
trivia.
now today's going to be yellow, and everything turns yellow, and they all have to change their guard outfits into yellow guard outfit.
It's
I
true.
think that'd
Yeah.
be cool.
It's a
Oh my God.
mood room,
Yeah.
mood guards.
I'm assuming that they were all just like hanging out in a much less impressive room, playing cards, just eating some, Doritos, and then it's like, oh, they're in the elevator. They're in the elevator. Okay, everybody, run in. Wait, you got some Doritos on your gold pajamas. So wipe them
Oh
off.
man,
Bring that ironing droid
Yeah.
in here.
Where's my ironing droid? But could be. Who knows? Maybe he does have a boudoir.
Well, we found out in the next movie that the Emperor had a side room. Like, he had a whole quarters, right?
Right.
yeah.
So,
Mhm.
he has a quarters.
Hmm.
Or don't they have
Um,
books that have like cross sections of the ships, so that you can really spend many hours imagining all the different areas? Wouldn't they have stuff like that in there?
What it's like to be in the canteen of the on board the Star Destroyer.
Those were
Yeah.
always the best.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything better than a cross section of a ship in a comic or something? I mean, that's
Pretty great.
A
great.
family tree in a book that has like a mouse's family. I feel like I had something like that as a kid, and that was
Mhm.
pretty exciting for me.
Yeah.
I do like those from comics where it like all of these things. So the cross section of like either the ship or the weapon or the headquarters, but then also the essentially the family tree where it'll just give you like Avengers and it'll list everybody who was ever an Avenger for any period of time. And you get this like, oh, well, that's, you follow through the kind of in order who was in the team. Those are both.
Also, not literally the family tree, like Scarlet Witch is married to Vision, and not like
I would
biological
like
family tree or technological family tree.
Well,
although if too many people are related, it bothers me, which I don't know why we're talking about Star Wars if that's the case, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Well, I was recently looking at the family tree of the royal family because we watched The Crown,
All
so
right.
that was a lot of fun. But
Daniel's become quite a royalist.
oh, I'm so into that.
If
That's
there's
my
a
new Star
documentary
Wars.
about Princess Diana or the royal sisters, Daniel's
Listen,
all over it.
There's a lot of parallels between Kylo Ren and Prince Charles. That's all I'm going to say.
Wow.
But speaking of Kylo, what is
The deal.
Rey to him? Knowing what we know, to those of us who've seen the next movie, is she like a second aunt?
Just good friends.
Good friend.
What I guess it kind of depends on whether or not you put any steak into the oven before you. No, if you put any steak into the idea that Palpatine helped create Anakin.
Doesn't he say that he does? He did? Or is my imagination putting more into that moment than...
He implies something, but
Yeah.
he never specifically says.
Oh, okay.
There's no official like, yes, I did this. I made him. Like the way he says I made Snoke, he doesn't say I made Anakin. He's just kind of there's this idea, and then some people will get angry if you say that they're like, oh yeah, and then Snoke, used the Force to help create Anakin, and then they're like, no.
But
No, it's
Shmi
just-
was like
Shmi.
not with someone,
Who's
right?
Shmi?
His mom.
Shmi is Anakin's mother. Darth Vader's
Darth Vader's mommy.
mother.
Yeah, but he was immaculately conceived, wasn't he?
So Palpatine's baby
am I making
mama?
this stuff up?
That's correct.
Yeah.
He was, according to Shmi,
There was no father.
No
she
father.
says
Let's
there
say
was
that.
no father. But also, if we're taking her word for it that she was just, I don't know. Suddenly I was pregnant. I have no idea what could have happened.
Are you
So it could have
slut-shaming
been-
her?
No,
Why?
I'm saying she should just let her, Tatooine freak flag fly and be like, I couldn't tell you who it was. Like that's a different.
There were so many, right?
Yeah.
Well, especially because we find out that Anakin has like 6 brothers and sisters who are also there was no father and just kind of given away. So who knows what's
do?
really going on?
Wait, where's
there.
that
No,
from?
no.
Oh.
No, they're just totally making
I was
that
like,
part
wait,
up. But...
do I need to keep up with the comics now? Am I?
I just feel like why even put that in there at all if that's not what's going on?
Right.
Put what in there?
Well, why have Shmi say that and why have Palpatine later say what he says if that's not the situation? That just seems weird. I don't know.
They also kiss their brother and sister, so who knows? Anything's possible.
I'm okay with that.
That's less weird.
It's hot.
But if Palpatine, oh boy, okay, if Palpatine created Anakin, that doesn't necessarily mean that's what we're talking about, right? The question
Yes.
of whether Palpatine created Anakin in a like non-biological way.
Unnatural.
Yeah.
Right.
That doesn't necessarily mean, though, that Anakin is Palpatine's, I don't know if they even have DNA, right? Because he didn't make him from himself. Or is that what we're
We
saying
don't
we
know.
did? He
We
made
have
him
no
from
idea.
himself. But he might not have.
I like to stick to my increasingly hard to stick to theory that the Force doesn't exist and none of this. It's all just to kind of, simple tricks and nonsense, if you can. So I think it really was, things got maybe they were out drinking, things got a little hazy, and then,
Shmi and Palpatine?
and Shmi kind of, they had something going on, and then, next thing is like, oh yeah, that was magic. It was the Force. That's easy explanation for everything.
Pete, that's your take on it, basically, that you try to see everything as if the Force is not a real thing?
I often do, but there are times where it's
Exceptions.
best that I not bring it up, and I don't. So the times when lots of Force stuff is going on visibly right in front of me, if I don't,
Right.
mention it. But then there's other times where it's just like, hey, you know what? Maybe it's not really the Force,
You're
So
like
you're
a
a Force
Star Wars
skeptic.
atheist.
essentially, when it's
Well-
convenient. Not in a
Well, so what's
foxhole.
the explanation for all the so-called Force stuff? It's just not what
Usually magnets.
magnets.
Often
Oh.
it's magnets.
Like who was that character in the old Stanley cowboy
Spider-Man?
comic? Do you know who I'm talking about?
Um,
He was like the rawhide kid, and
Right.
there was like a there was like a villain, and he pretended to have a ghost gunslinger, but it was there was a gun that was floating, and it was all magnets.
Ooh.
Mr. Magneto?
No.
I feel like there is something called Mr.
All
Magneto.
right. No one knows what I'm talking about.
No, it's all right. I feel like now I can go read Rawhide Kid.
That's good stuff.
But yeah, that neither here nor there. I think that that relationship could be, since we don't have kind of a accuracy on what the actual condition is under which Anakin was created, we can't really pin down
speculation on our parts.
Right.
Kid Colt Outlaw. That's who it was.
Oh, there you
not
go.
Rawhide Kid. Sorry.
Similar but different.
Similar, yeah. Okay, Snoke though I did like Snoke. I gotta say.
Really? He's so gross.
And I was really disappointed that he was dispatched with no backstory. I've just got to say it. I wanted him to be more of a. I like the idea of a new villain, and with a new backstory. So.
Again, I think it's, if they made Episode 9 as in the original intent, I don't think he would have died in the middle of the trilogy.
Right.
I think he would have been the big bad for the rest of it.
Sorry,
and then maybe we'd find out more about something with him and the Emperor, but he would still be the
original
overarching
intent was what, and what happened?
If they had made this movie if Rian Johnson had written Episodes 8 and 9.
So, and he was supposed to originally.
That's what I've recently been told.
Okay.
I don't know.
And then what happened? Why did he not? Do you know?
When the director Trevorrow got fired from the 9th movie, then they brought J.J. Abrams back in. He's like, I'll do my own thing.
Oh,
and,
I wonder if Rian Johnson cared.
Well, I think then that made him take a lot of the good ideas that he had planned for the next one and put him in this one.
Got it. I get it. Yes.
That
Sorry to make you repeat this.
That does tend to feel like a bit of a go frack yourself on the part of Rian Johnson. That he was like, I'm going to take all these story beats I had for the end of a saga, and now I'm just going to move them to the middle of the saga, and that's up to those guys what they're going to do.
Yeah, you like a puzzle box? Here you go. Solve this.
Well,
yeah.
But also, it's not like his call, is it? Like, doesn't Kathleen Kennedy and them have the final say?
Well, that's a controversial point.
Yeah.
I will say this. Like, my main problem used to be that these movies didn't seem to have a storyteller behind them. That, whatever you think of the prequels and various movies within the first 6 movies, at the heart of it, it was always George Lucas. And it was weirdly a very personal story, right? I mean, it was like his dad wanted him to take over his stationery store, and he didn't want to do that. He wanted to go to film school, and that, I'm never going to be a businessman. And then he's like in charge of 3 huge businesses. He becomes the thing that he never wanted to be and all that. But these movies, there's nobody. And that was my problem. But then you think about it, and it's like, well, no, but Disney's telling the story, and Disney is the Sith, right? And so, like, it's their fucking story. Like, it's like,
language, please.
Of course, her parents are the evil corporate empire.
Right.
So I've learned to appreciate
it back
them.
to be the evil. What was, Alex? You had a thing about why all the villains. It's all about the kind of the guy who has no time for his family, but it all turns out to. I forgot exactly how you phrased it, but
there's all these movies about how fathers need to spend more time with their kids. You know what I mean? It seems like that's kind of a recurrent theme, and that's because people who produce movies are workaholic fathers who don't spend any time with their kids, so they like a story where a guy like that can be redeemed and turn out to be a good guy. And so
George's dad, that's what happened. His dad was at the stationery store all the time, and George had to stay home with his sick mom, and he never saw his dad. So it's like, if you think of
Cats cradled him.
Yeah. So, but then he becomes that guy, and it's like the prequels are almost like an apology for the dad.
Well, yeah, it's a weird, like, if he's
we all become our parents.
If you make him the Jedi, essentially, in the prequels, or it's just like, we got propped up to this huge, position of importance, but we don't know what we're doing.
Right.
Right. So it's an interesting.
And then The Mandalorian is all about becoming a father, right? It's all about the single guy who goes from being a single dude to being a father, and being responsible. It's interesting. But these movies aren't, these sequels. You don't really have that father-son or father-daughter relationship.
Right. Well, they do. I mean, I think the main thread that resonated with a lot of people, and maybe from, stepping outside of that story into a different kind of storyline of Rey kind of, essentially making herself out of nothing, out of nowhere. And then it forks, and you can be, it's either the story of Rey kind of, constructing herself out of nothing, Rey from nowhere, or also then it's like, oh, well, it doesn't matter what people put on you, what your background is, what you're expected to be in the next one. You can just be who you are. You can make yourself in that sense too. And so I think that that Rey storyline is the underlying thread, and we have a lot of other stuff going on around it. Especially as we said in the next movie, there's an awful lot of stuff going on. But I feel like that's the heart of it now. But again, it is pulled. It doesn't have a main storyteller, so it is getting pulled in kind of a lot of different directions at once from time to time.
The storyteller is that building that Palpatine lives in.
Mm.
And it's like propped up. Like, have you ever been to Disney headquarters when the seven dwarves are holding up the roof, and it's just like those Sith holding up the? I'm telling you guys.
Wow,
what's going on? So it's all there.
Well, do we have anything else for minute number 93?
Young Rey. He says young Rey.
Young Rey,
which is often that's more like we've heard the Emperor say young Skywalker and stuff.
Yes.
So, but young Rey, which is interesting because it's young. That's all she is. She's just Rey. That's all. Young Rey was my note.
Young Rey.
Young Rey. Well, I guess that'll wrap up minute number 93, and that's all we have to say. But there's plenty more podcasting to be heard over at moviesbyminutes.com. That's where people are doing what we do with Star Wars and doing it with other movies. It's crazy. Everything from Clueless to MASH to Lord of the Rings.
Gummo?
No gum minute yet.
I don't think so. Let's see.
Spinal Tap. I don't want to leave anyone out, but
no Gummo. Sorry.
No Gummo. You want to reserve it?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
PeteGummominute.com. Put that in the.
Oh, now I got to buy that too. Come on.
Pete.
So, yes, go check that out for more podcasting, and check us out tomorrow here on Star Wars Minute.
Star Wars Minute.